Hey y'all, Happy New Year. It is literally January 1st, 2025. I am recording this because I wanted to make sure that I got some kind of content out there. I spent all day working on writing this script. So by the time it was time to film, I am like losing light. I think daylight. Hold on, let me check my phone here. The sun literally sets at 5:40 p.m. So I have like 9 minutes to film this. We'll see how it goes. If it gets dark, and we turn on lights, it's totally fine. But I wanted to make sure I got this out there because consistency. So today we're talking about 5 habits for a great customer experience. So I'm looking at the notes on my phone down here just because I was trying to create a better format, but we're just going to roll with it today because we want to get content out there and this is going to be great. So let's go ahead and get into the 5 habits for a great customer experience. So if you don't know me by now, my name is Stacy and I'm the host of the Customer Journey Online Marketing Podcast. I am a customer journey marketing strategist. I help you maximize sales by optimizing the customer experience. So fun fact, I have had a New Year's resolution to do 10,000 steps every day. And I've actually kept this resolution pretty well for the past 5 years. I actually started it like mid 2020, but I've kept it consistently over the past 5 years. I've had 10,000 steps daily with the exception of one day. And that was because I thought I hit 10,000 steps, but I actually only got 9,800. I went to bed thinking that I've already completed the 10,000 steps. And then it turns out the next day, I'm like, are you serious? I missed it by like 200 steps. It literally takes like less than 2 minutes to get 200 steps. It's crazy. Otherwise, I would have said, hey, I've had 10,000 steps daily every day for the past 5 years. But I digress. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah. So I've kept that resolution to today, along with a 20-minute cardio workout every morning. I may modify that to walking depending on like if I have a medical reason not to work out that day. But that actually helps me get the 10,000 steps. All of that to say is that habits are fantastic, for creating routines and it's great for overall health and fitness in general. And so when we can do that for our health, we can also do that for the customer experience. And I'm going to show you how creating habits how creating habits can help you with the customer experience. I actually don't have my glasses on because the way it films, it doesn't film properly. So that's why I don't have them on. But also I cannot see my notes. So again, we're shooting. We're not even my friend Zach's my pseudo friend, Zach Spuckler. He is an online marketer who teaches Facebook ads and he always says shoot for B-. And I am shooting for like just barely passing. Like if I get a D+ on this video, I'm doing something great. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be talking about the 5 habits or routines that will help you create a better customer experience for your audience, because when you optimize the customer experience, you maximize sales. All right. So habit number 1 is to create regular content. Make a habit to create content regularly. Thus the D- work that's going on here. But essentially bake this into your schedule. First, decide on the frequency of how often you want to create content, by being realistic about what you can actually do. So some people say, hey, I'm going to create a weekly podcast. Some people get even more ambitious and say they're going to create a twice weekly podcast. But honestly, think about what you are capable of and what generally kind of comes up. Life does get in the way sometimes and life kind of does happen here and there. And so you want to make sure that you are being realistic about how often you can actually post. Sometimes it's 3 times a month and that's okay. The important thing is that you create a schedule and you're consistent with it. So why is this good for the customer experience? Customers like predictability. Predictability helps develop trust. So for example, if you say, sorry, my notes disappeared. So for example, if you say you're going to come out with a new podcast every week, on Wednesday, every day, 9 a.m., just like you promised, it shows that your audience can trust you and trust that there's going to be a new episode the next Wednesday. However, if you tend to skip a week regularly, so I understand if you miss a week or 2 here and there because you got sick or something, totally fine. But if you do it regularly, it makes it hard for your audience to rely on your content and they will stop checking in. It also demonstrates that you do not do what you always say you're going to do. For example, I am watching this Netflix drama right now. It's called When the Phone Rings. And it comes out, I think a new episode comes out every Thursday and Friday, something like that. And I've been watching it from the very beginning since it first came out. And so like every time a new episode comes out, I am like there to watch it. If Netflix all of a sudden said, hey, I know you've been watching this K-drama for like the past month or so, but you know what? The production company didn't send us the last 2 episodes for this week, so we're going to have to push back till next week, unfortunately. Can you imagine, like, if you're watching your favorite show and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we had a production issue, we can't get this show out, like you would be upset, right? Like I can't imagine them saying, hey, you know, we didn't finish production on this show, so we're not going to release it. Like, it's the same kind of concept where it's like, okay, you said you're going to release a new episode every Thursday and Friday, and all of a sudden you've skipped a week. Now, I understand small businesses have issues and things like that, but for the most part, from the customer experience, from their point of view, it's like, hey, what the heck? You said there was going to be a new episode this week, and now there isn't. So just think about it from a customer's perspective when you create your content schedule. So if you have a content schedule from the beginning that allows you to kind of make up for time when you miss it, then it makes it a lot easier to make up content. Whereas if you don't have that kind of makeup time baked into your schedule, you run the risk of not showing up for your audience. So here's another reason why you want to make sure that you're creating content consistently. If you don't create content regularly, your audience will look elsewhere. So regular content helps keep your audience connected to you. Kind of like dating. So if you ghost them for 1 week, they might forgive you. But if you ghost them regularly, they might start to look at better options. For example, if you have a podcast about healthy eating and skip a few weeks, they don't feel the same connection with you as another creator who is sticking to their regularly promised schedule. So it's a tough and competitive world. You're not the only one competing for their attention. So if you want to win over your audience, you need to maintain that connection you have with them. So by continuing to create content consistently, the person who creates content consistently is going to win someone over better than if someone was kind of inconsistent with their content schedule. Okay. Now, tip number 2 or habit number 2 is more of a tip than an actual habit, but it is create habits that help you create regular content. Excuse me. Sorry. Like I said, we're going for a D+ here. This is more of a tip than a habit, but it's closely related. When you create habits that help it make it easier for you to create content, you're more likely to be consistent. Like I said, creating the time and space in your schedule, baking it in, and making sure that you're getting content done. For example, the light is just getting absolutely terrible. I'm probably gonna have to turn the lights on, and it's not gonna look great for the video, but like I said, we're gonna roll with it. For example, every morning I do my hair and makeup just before breakfast. So I try to keep it to about 15 minutes to make it easy, so I don't overpromise myself that I'm going to have like a super glam look or anything like that. It's just enough to get me on video. I typically like to film earlier in the day. Today got away from me because it is New Year's Day, but here we are, and I'm starting to look kind of creepy with the shadows coming in. Anyways, I do my hair and makeup every morning so that I'm always camera ready. So if I feel inspired to do a video, I'm ready to go. If I don't feel like doing a video, it's okay. I did my hair and makeup anyway. Whereas if you're like, okay, I feel inspired to do a video, but I need to get ready, then you lose that momentum because you're not ready. So yeah, that's why I make it a point to do hair and makeup every day, or at least during, business days. I also have a very, very simple studio setup. I just have the mic here with the camera. I've set it up where it takes like less than 5 minutes to kind of get everything put together. So I'm like, hey, I gotta shoot this video like right now, like the sun's going down, then it's already up and ready to go. Like it takes like a few minutes to get ready. Okay, 1 second. Sorry, if I talk too fast for too long, like I forget to breathe, and so I need to breathe. Okay. One thing I'm still working on is baking content creation into my schedule. This is one of the newer episodes, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But the problem is that I don't always feel inspired, but my goal is just to have, eventually, is to have like an hour every day for content creation, or the time and space every week for content creation, just kind of make it a regular part of my day. So I may not create content every day, but I will have that time and space available for that content creation. So let's say I have an hour today, hour tomorrow. I'm still trying to figure out the schedule, but the idea is that I make it a habit to bake it into my schedule. I can work on creating content. I may not produce it. I may not even release this video. I have no idea. But the point is that I've set up the time there to create it. And so because the time is there, I'm forced to create something. I may not feel inspired one day, but I may feel inspired the next. And so it's important just to have that content, that time and space baked into your schedule. Okay, so habit number 3 is to regularly review your assets. So make it a habit to check all of your funnels. So everything from your landing pages, website pages, sales pages, thank you pages, all of the automations, the emails, everything. Just make sure that everything is working. Now, how often you want to do that is up to you. So for example, if you're running ads on something, like you're running ads to a lead magnet, you want to make sure that you are checking up on it regularly. You don't have to check every single thing. Like you don't need to run a test every day, but you do need to make sure that people are signing up, people are opting in, people are receiving the emails, and just check the stats regularly. Because if you go a day or two and you notice that, and you realize, like, let's say you've been running this ad for like a week and you notice that nobody's opening the emails, there may be a problem with deliverability. There may be a problem with your email software or whatever. But when you catch it early, then it's a lot easier to fix the problem. Also, if you're spending money on ads, you're going to save a lot more money catching this mistake from the beginning rather than running a bunch of money on ads only to find out that a week went by and none of the emails were sent. So yeah, make sure you do. So make sure you check your assets regularly. Okay, one second. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read my notes. For our landing pages, make sure that it's loading properly. So just check every now and then. Make sure that everything's loading regularly, the images are showing up. Check on mobile as well. And this is helpful during the design process before a page goes live. Let's say you're actually designing. A habit that you want to create is that you're actually checking both on desktop and mobile as you go. Mobile and desktop have two very different experiences. And I remember there was one incident where we were working on a sales page as a team, and we learned later in the process that it wasn't working on mobile. And so it became this whole thing, and we had to stop and just like make it mobile first. It was a whole thing. So just make sure you're baking in those habits regularly so you don't get to the end of the design process and then find out it's not working on mobile. Just making sure that you guys can still see me. I think the sun's like already down, but we're working here. We're going. Okay. Regularly review your assets to make sure you identify the small leaks, and it'll prevent you from trying to patch up a massive hole later. So for example, for that sales page issue, I think we had to, we redirected to a mobile version, and then, or redirected to a simplified version, spent like 2 or 3 days trying to redesign the thing just to get it back up. So we lost a lot of time with that. It turned out fine in the end, but ultimately it was a big headache to deal with. So make sure you're checking regularly so that you don't come up surprise in the middle of a launch. Yeah. So same with emails and things like that. Make sure you're checking everything regularly. All right. Number 4 is consistent communication. Let me take a breath again. I'm like trying to get through the content because I know the sun's going down, but I do have to breathe as well. So check your emails and reply to DMs at regular intervals, but not all the time. So the key is to create a schedule and stick to it as best as you can. So if you start to check emails when you're not supposed to, for example, I'm supposed to be doing content creation right now. Let's say, hey, you know what? Let me go peek into the inbox and see what happens. You could be distracted by a customer service question that could take potentially an hour to resolve. And then by the time you get back to whatever it was you're doing, you've lost all that momentum. So make sure that you are creating space and time to check those customer service emails and your DMs. So again, those kind of go hand in hand. I know we like to check our DMs. We like to check social regularly. But if you're not checking them at the intervals that you're supposed to, You will get distracted. You will go down a rabbit hole. We all know how Instagram is. We open, I do it all the time. I go to post anything, like, let's say for the business, I'm like, okay, I'm going to post something. This is why I use the Meta app or the Meta website to post on Instagram, so I don't actually have to open Instagram. But when you do go in there to check it, you go down this rabbit hole, and you need to be aware that you're going down a rabbit hole of like DMs, comments, messages, that sort of thing. You do want to reply to messages. Actually, let me back up first on the customer service side. When you're checking email, make sure you set aside time to make sure you are focusing on those emails. It may take you only 5 minutes to get through your inbox, and then you're done for that hour or whatever you specified. And what you do then is that you can do one of two options, but you want to create an if this, then that sequence. So if your inbox is full, then you are working that entire hour on customer service. If your inbox is not full, create a rule on what you're going to do. For example, if it's a content creation day, then maybe you just go back to working on content creation. But if that inbox is full, then you have to say, hey, I'm going to spend this entire hour fixing this whole customer service issue. And then again, bake enough time to make sure you have enough margin to get what you need done. But just make sure that you've created that margin in your schedule that, hey, you're going to finish customer service during the specific time. It can look different for whatever your business looks like. For example, I'll check it at the inbox at 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and then an hour before end of day. And then, again, I'll have that hour baked into each time I check. And that includes both email and DMs. So if you have a team, maybe, your team member can handle one of those, but I make sure that I have that regular interval. And again, I may not be using that entire hour for customer service, but I have it baked into my schedule so that if my customer service allotment for that time period is completely full, the rest of my schedule won't get thrown off track because I'm aware that I am creating this schedule to create to check the content. Now, going back to the DMs, if you are posting or creating new content, let's say you create a new post, make sure that you have the time baked in to monitor that post within the next 24 hours. What you don't want to do is post on a Friday evening and then ghost your audience for like Saturday, Sunday, and then come back Monday and find out you've had all these messages in DMs and comments, because what you want to do is you want to capitalize on that initial reaction, especially if you post something on stories. They only see it for the first 24 hours. And so you want to be timely with how you post things. And you want to make sure that you're responding to your audience in a timely fashion. Because it's like, okay, cool, you posted this thing on Friday, you get back to them on Monday, they kind of like maybe forgot what you said, and you kind of lose that momentum with your audience. So just make sure that whenever you post something, that you are checking your DMs and comments regularly, so that you can get back to people as needed. Okay. Okay. Why is this good for the customer experience? Okay. I think I already touched on that because, if you're checking emails, the other thing too is you don't want to train your audience to believe that you're working 24/7, even if you are. You want them to believe that you're working 9 to 5 or whatever it is hours you set. Because if you're like answering messages at midnight, then they're like, oh, she's up. She's always answering messages at midnight. There are some people that do this, and they say, hey, sometimes we may reply out of our regular hours, but just know that our actual business hours are from 9 to 5 this day. And I've seen that happen, and that's okay because the audience is aware that sometimes like they may want to sneak in and check the messages, but not to expect anything until Monday, or until like the actual business hours. So just something to think about when you're answering messages. One thing that I may do sometimes is like schedule a reply. So let's say I'm replying to a customer service email at like 9 o'clock at night for whatever reason. So I'm replying at 9 o'clock at night. I schedule it so it doesn't go out until 9 o'clock the next day. Like if it's not urgent, I'll schedule it to go out during normal business hours so that the people who are emailing us are not trained to believe that, oh, cool, they'll answer any time of night. Oh, it's midnight my time. Cool, they're up. I'm going to go message them all the things. No, so just make sure you like one thing that's great about email is that you can schedule your reply. Okay. Let me see. Running out of breath. Let's see where we are. What was that? That was habit number 4. So number 5, we talked about consistent communication. Number 5, consistent standard operating procedures. This is like a whole episode that I could get into, but we're going to keep it short and sweet for the sake of this episode. But just make it a habit of continuously updating your standard operating procedures. So it really helps when the whole team is on the same page. Basically, anytime you do a task, if you're creating a standard operating procedure, anytime you do a task, write down how you do it in your SOP. It doesn't matter if it's Google Docs, Notion, whatever. Just make sure that everyone on the team is using the same thing, not one person using Google Docs, another person using Notion. Just set the standard for everybody and then make sure they're following that. And then this helps from a customer service perspective, because when everyone is on the team is on the same page, they're all speaking the same language, and the customer has a seamless experience, whether they're talking to you or a VA or whatever. When they're talking between different departments, you're all talking the same language. So I've experienced this before with the insurance companies, where a customer representative from, I don't really know how they have these different departments, but like from department A will say one thing, department B will say another thing, and department C will say another thing. I'm like, why are you all speaking like 3 different languages? Like, I don't understand why department A is saying one thing, department B is saying something else. It is very frustrating from a customer experience perspective. So, and a more kind of tangible example in like the online space is, let's say the CEO or owner of a company, or say you're like, okay, cool. You'll receive a bonus. You'll receive X bonus if you join by whatever midnight. And then your customer service team says, no, you'll only receive the bonus if you do X, like if you join like on a specific date. And so the dates are mixed up. And so the CEO is promising a bonus and the customer service team is promising something else. Or it's like, okay, you'll get this discount if you do this. And then the customer service team is like, no, you'll get the discount if you do this. So it's very, very important that you make sure that the entire team is on the same page at all times. The way that you do that is by making sure that your standard operating procedures are updated regularly. And, it's a habit. So you have to do it as you go. So you complete a task, you add it. If you have a new product, you add all of the operating procedures on there. If you have removing a product, make sure all that language is removed. You don't delete the operating procedure, but you do want to make sure that you archive it in some way so that your team knows what you have done previously, just in case it happens to come up. So that's the whole thing with standard operating procedures. Sorry, trying to take a breath here. All right. Recap. I think we spent like 20 minutes together. I'm not sure. 23 minutes. Okay. So in conclusion, let's review the 5 habits that we talked about in this episode. Number 1 is to create regular content. Be consistent with content creation so people know when to expect something, and to keep that connection with your audience. Number 2 is to create regular habits that help you create consistent content. So for example, like I do my hair and makeup regularly so that when it's time for me to film a video, I'm already ready. Number 3 is to regularly review your assets. Make sure that everything is working so that you can patch up the small holes and not have to deal with a massive problem later. Number 4 is consistent communication. Make sure that you're checking your emails regularly, and that you're answering them at a specific time, so that you don't. This is more for you, where you don't get bogged down in trying to answer a bunch of emails, and it also helps train your audience to understand that they are. That you're not going to be answering it 24/7. And then number 5 is consistent SOPs. So consistent standard operating procedures helps everybody on the team speak the same language so that you can help be consistent and look like one body, one person when answering these emails. All right, we did it, folks. We did it. This video was some messy work. This is some D+ work right here, but I did it. We did it. And like I said, content creation, you make it a habit. You be consistent with it. I've been creating content. I may not publish it, but I am getting in the habit of regularly creating the content so that you guys have something. So yeah, I'm surprised the camera, I guess the exposure on this Sony ZV is like picks up at night because it is super dark in the room right now, but I'm like, I can still see myself on camera. So pretty crazy. But yeah, that's it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I'll see you around on the next one. Take care.